Hello everyone, my name is Hiba Jaber. I'm a consultant and trainer for Dubai Real Estate Institute, and I'm happy to be here live from Dubai Land Department, Dubai Real Estate Institute here at Cityscape. Today I'd like to share with you a topic in our webinar about some of the innovative solutions that we were able to come up with after we had many innovation dialogues and think tanks that have been discussed in the past. Some of those outcomes were, of course, the result of, as I said, many dialogues that we've conducted in the past. We've had critical exchanges between all real estate stakeholders who believe that sustainable growth and development is an opportunity that can lead to positive industry transformations. The Innovation Camp specifically focuses on innovative strategies aimed at improving the real estate industry for all stakeholders, enhancing the real estate market as we move forward through 2030 and beyond, and of course attracting foreign investments. Earlier this year and in prior years, DREI hosted a series of think tanks and innovation camps to address the challenges faced by researchers, financial institutions, brokers, valuers, lawyers, and developers in the real estate market. Participants proposed practical solutions aimed at overcoming these challenges, and the session findings were documented in a report and circulated to the proper departments within Dubai Land Departments. Objectives of today's webinar is to address the solutions that were proposed to solve lack of transparency, lack of regulation, and lack of implementation of the laws in the real estate market in Dubai. To improve transparency, some of the suggestions that were provided in our findings in our innovative dialogues were that there should be a proper online registry system whereby anybody, potentially for a fee, can have access to the transactional data of the properties broken down by date, area, and detailed description of the property and its features. Data related to property details, projects, transactions, units, etc. needs to be made available to local and international investors through DLD applications and websites. Dubai Land Department should be able somehow to share data by collaborating with the research organizations and property system development consultancies like Property Finder and Property Monitor. Valuers should be given an opportunity to work with Dubai Land Department to classify and value properties, and the fact that valuers should use international measurements and valuation standards to assess data when evaluating properties. Uniformity and transparency in valuation methods will ultimately help banks with financing projects as a whole and units in specific. Softening the banking regulations was another finding that we were able to arrive at those as a result from the innovation camp solutions. The ability to get a mortgage should be made less burdensome for end users specifically residing in Dubai. Apparently the cap is perceived being too high and the salary income requirements too demanding. It is too difficult for foreign investors to open a bank account here in Dubai. This is an obvious block for foreign investors and should be addressed in order to attract investments. It was suggested that banks offer end users, specifically a specific market segment that we call the owner-occupier, better LTV ratios. Penalties should be applied if the properties is rented out, in the sense that these owner occupiers, the reason they purchased that property was to live in it, and as such should be prevented from being able to rent out that property. So for example, Ijari registration could be blocked for such properties, and any subsequent financing required on another property for that same individual would be at 50% LTV ratio. Another solution was for banks to implement a flexible payment plan for retired expats in order to attract them and keep them in Dubai. and the fact that banks could provide investors, entrepreneurs, and professionals special mortgage rates to encourage them to purchase properties in Dubai. Another point that was very much highlighted was DLD's role in instilling confidence. DLD was recommended to develop ties with other government agencies, international partners, and social channels to promote Dubai real estate and its benefits to international investors. It was suggested for DLD to collaborate with governments which implement the best and most feasible real estate market systems, constituents of laws, technology, promotional aspects, data transparency, processes, procedures, and standards. The government entities should lead in promoting the multinational, broad-mindedness and accepting image of the UAE in general and promote Dubai's real estate market globally. Creating an investment map showing transactional data, like I mentioned earlier, could also add benefit as it has a tendency to educate the investors about the transactional data, value, volume, areas where they should be able to invest in, top nationalities of clients that get attracted to Dubai's real estate market. All this data could actually add value in the decision-making process and attracting investments. Due to lack of knowledge of proper guidelines, it was also recommended for DLD to consider implementing a communication system or a media channel to announce, explain, and provide the requirements for any new initiative that gets announced by DLD. Give you an example, when the rent-to-own initiative was announced, there was a lot of questions about how do we go about it? Where do we go to learn the actual process from A to Z? Does these things kind of get registered in the Dubai Land Department registration system? So these type of information needs to be presented in such a way that is accessible to potentially anybody of interest in that specific initiative. Another recommendation was more information to be provided, for example, on how do you go about getting your golden visa, the golden card visa, and things like that. There should be a third-party deposit body to handle deposits. That was a point that was to be honest, stressed in many of our sessions, and they recommended that this third body handles deposits for both rentals and sales transactions in order to facilitate non-resident parties transactions. Another solution in terms of the issue facing the implementation of the existing laws and introducing new ones to secure the rights of investors. Some of those solutions proposed were as such that in most cases laws exist but are not necessarily applied consistently and efficiently. This is true in a number of areas, including probate, liquidation of canceled projects, and owners association. Property laws of the Emirate of Dubai must be implemented fully and in a timely fashion. And I'm of course happy to report to you guys that just recently we have witnessed the release of law number 6 of 2019 that talks about, of course, the laws pertaining to jointly owned properties. So that's now out there, and we're very excited to learn more about it and see how we can actually apply it in a way that could actually contribute to adding or contribute to attracting investors. Reduce the service charges and maintenance costs. That's one of the solutions that was also proposed to attract investments. Designing and implementing more laws to promote and protect the market. It was stressed that a few of the laws need to be revised and created based on the current market demand. For example, a comprehensive commercial law needs to be put in place in order to govern commercial properties, which should be treated completely separately from the way that we do business for residential properties and residential brokers. Dubai courts has to encourage consistency in approach across government departments, courts, civil defense, and encourage closer links and closer closer ties and interaction and cooperation amongst DIFC courts, Dubai courts, and Dubai land departments. Apparently, investors are not reluctant to pay, for example, value-added taxes when it comes to providing or giving back to the country when they are imposed, as long as they are getting something in return, such as permanent residencies for them and their children. This tends to release the burden of uncertainty that usually surrounds the length of stay in the country. It was also recommended that transfer fees change in a way that is calculated based on the value of the property. Just to give you an example, for example, if you're purchasing a property less than 3 million, transfer fees should be, for example, 3%. If it's more than 3 million, then transfer fees should be 4%. Off-plan transfers should be more expensive. This is just, again, some of the solutions that were proposed. Developers' roles and obligations also play a huge part in attracting investments. There should be a commitment between developers and buyers, whereby the buyer cannot resell his off-plan property until, for example, 6 months prior to handover. This is apparently some of the practices that is done worldwide, specifically in the Swedish market. This practice will create stability in the off-plan sales market, encourage the buyer to commit to the project, and would avoid speculators buying multiple units for the sake of just flipping properties. Buyer would only buy after conducting a proper due diligence about the project, about the developer, and the developer, of course, will also get to know a little bit more about the buyer that they're dealing with prior to committing to a purchase. Better control over release of new projects was also highly recommended. Supply and demand are very essential elements and can affect the property value adversely. Government agencies should kind of work together, publish plans for future projects, so calling for collaborations between, for example, RTA, DEWA, and RERA and Dubai Land Departments. Holding developers accountable for the delivery of projects, enforcing a practice where a developer can only have a certain number of projects within a particular stage of construction. Unified SPA for all developers to use, and this would massively solve issues faced by investors when they're trying to negotiate the terms of their SPA with the developer. And of course, developing more projects targeting affordable housing market was also stressed pretty much in every dialogue that we've had in the past. Some of the proposals that were enacted to date, and I'm of course happy to share that with you because, you know, there's a tendency for people to say, okay, well, great, you have all these innovative solutions, but have any of them been applied in the market? Well, I'm happy to tell you that yes, a lot of them have actually been applied. So I'm happy to share just a few. One is the calling for data accuracy has been enacted in the sense that DLD data accuracy and definition has been improved due to the collaborations between DLD and companies like Property Finder to launch Mu'ashir, which is the official Dubai sales and rental house price index. There was also a recommendation on the training evolving for people that are renewing their license. So this year, Dubai Real Estate Institute changed their renewal policy for people that are renewing the license, whereby brokers should be accredited with a proper number of required training courses, and they should enroll in a certain amount of education hours a year in order for them to be able to renew their license. Also, Dubai Real Estate Institute have offered training specifically for brokers that focus on the commercial aspect of the business. So now we have residential broker courses and ones that focus on the commercial aspect of the business. Another solution that was enacted was the permanent residency that will give investors and expats a sense of belonging and will encourage, of course, more investment and long-term commitment. This was accomplished recently as foreign real estate buyers, subject to meeting certain conditions, are entitled to, as I mentioned earlier, the Golden Card, which is a long-term residency scheme. Today, UAE is giving long-term visas, 5 and 10 years, to investors, entrepreneurs, professionals, specialists in the medical, scientific, research, and technical fields, and students and outstanding pupils to facilitate business and create an attractive and encouraging investment environment in the country. A minimum investment of 5 million is needed to obtain a 5-year visa, and double that amount is necessary for a decade-long visa. The release of Law Number 6 of 2019 on the ownership of common property in Dubai was another solution that was enacted based again on the numerous need for such a law to be enacted in Dubai. And of course, last but not least, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the UAE and ruler of Dubai, formed a higher committee for real estate just about a month ago, very recently, headed by Deputy Ruler Sheikh Maktoum bin Mohammed and senior property developers, that aims to achieve a balance between supply and demand in the sector, avoid launching similar real estate projects, and ensure projects add real value to the national economy. So this is just, again, some of the findings that were actually enacted based on the dialogues and the innovation dialogues that we've done in the past. Of course, I'm happy to report that we will continuously, as Dubai Real Estate Institute, we will continuously run those dialogues and innovative dialogues to reach innovative solutions and think tanks in order to improve the practice in the industry and of course benefit all the stakeholders, like I said, from developers to legal practitioners to brokers to valuers and of course government bodies. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you found the webinar of value and I look forward to, of course, working with a lot of you in the future to address more issues that could actually benefit the real estate industry.